Hello, everyone. It's Friday. It's SJU. We got a bunch of things DC and Marvel to talk about, but we also have a Fandom 5 trivia show coming up right after this at noon today, so be there for it. In the meantime, we got a Spencer, we got a Lon. How you doing, gentlemen?
Happy Friday, guys.
Good to see you.
Happy Friday to everyone. Like we said, we got Fandom 5. It's coming up at noon. Please check that out. The link is in the description for that. Oh, man, Ryan, am I going to say this joke? I'm going to say it. Come watch and play, you bunch of Zazoos. You wrote it. I said it. Let us jump into some news, though, which is the MCU has founded She-Hulk for the show called She-Hulk, so that's very convenient. Tatiana Maslany is going to play the lead role in the upcoming She-Hulk series that's coming to Disney+. She is best known, of course, for Orphan Black, which ran for 5 seasons. BBC America, she had many nominations for that show, and she won an Emmy for it. Very well-deserved one, if you ask me. And since then, she's been in a few other things, including, very recently, Perry Mason, and movies like Destroyer and Stronger. And the show is about Jennifer Walters. That's her, Tatiana Maslany. She is the cousin of Bruce Banner. Guess what? She gets hurt. She needs a blood transfusion. Her cousin Bruce goes, here's some blood. And there's some side effects. And she becomes big and green. But unlike her cousin, she does not lose her personality. She does not rage out in the same way. She is in control. Gentlemen, what do you think? I am very excited about the Maslany, but do you share that excitement?
Well, I do, in the sense that, like, man, Perry Mason was awesome. Destroyer kind of rips. I didn't see Orphan Black, but I thought it was cool. People say it's cool. How are her comedy chops? Because my sense, given the showrunners and the head writers that they put on this from, Rick and Morty, and you were saying Brooklyn Nine-Nine and stuff like that.
Jessica Gao is the showrunner, and she wrote for Rick and Morty and Silicon Valley, and they just hired their main director, Kat Coiro, and she's from Always Sunny, did episodes of The Mick and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, so very comedic background on the creators.
So we know she can do drama. Can she pull off comedy is my question, and that's a genuine question to you guys. I've never seen her crack a joke before.
Yeah, I mean, I think Orphan Black, not a very funny show, although it does have some elements, but it definitely showed that she's got crazy range. I mean, like, she could play all of these very different kinds of characters, and they really, even though it was one actress, it really felt like she was crafting these really individual kinds of stories and arcs. So on that level, this does give me confidence that you could sort of throw her into any kind of scenario and she'd, like, find her way and figure out the tone. I will say I'm a little thrown by I don't know She-Hulk that well, and I'm a little thrown by what the tone of the show is even going to be. Like, obviously it's going to be funny because all of these funny people are working on it. But yeah, is it going to be like Rick and Morty kind of funny, or is it going to be more like sitcom, courtroom, workplace comedy kind of funny? And how does the superhero element fit in? And I know that we were talking a little before the show that the comics are also kind of meta, like they have like a Deadpool sort of breaking the fourth wall angle. And it's like, is that going to be in the show too? It just seems like there's a lot of ingredients in this She-Hulk stew.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways they could go with it. I will say with her, I have sort of utmost confidence because, on Orphan Black, she had so much range. It was sort of ridiculous. It was one of those cases where you kind of forget you're watching the same person playing all these roles. And I do think that some of those characters, like Allison, say, were pretty comedic. She certainly got to show a lot of comedic chops in though the show was a drama, there were definitely some comedic moments that she pulled off really well. So that's what makes me excited for her. But yeah, that is a question, right, about the style. She-Hulk is often, in her solo stories especially, not when she's with the Avengers, solo stories, she is very comedic. And like you said, Lon, she kind of, she was the first Marvel superhero before Daredevil to be breaking the fourth wall, talking to the audience. And I'm curious, what do you think? Like, would you want them to do that in the MCU proper? And also, is the danger that everyone's going to say, you're ripping off Deadpool, even though she did do it first in the comics?
I think that you can get away with that. You don't have to go full Deadpool, but, like, I think even still most characters in the MCU have trained us to accept some amount of winking, like, we're in a movie right now. Isn't this crazy, you guys? So only taking that a little bit further, I don't think is going to break the immersion more than we're used to with an MCU story where the characters seem to be aware that they're in really insane situations.
Yeah, you always get that like they hit it really on the head in Endgame where Black Widow is like, I email back and forth with a raccoon all the time. Like, none of this is going to seem weird. And like, yeah, I think there is always that joke of like, wait, take one step back. This is all bananas, which is really all the meta joking is in Deadpool and She-Hulk anyway. But yeah, it is an interesting twist on it, and it is weird because she will be part of like MCU continuity to kind of like throw that curveball in there. Like some people in the MCU know that it's a franchise.
Right. Like how much do they want to wink at some of the things that have happened? I mean, even when you think about the beginning of Far From Home, I think they kind of had some fun with it, with like seeing the blip, the after effect, and that sort of purposely cheesy student film.
Right.
Spencer, do you like when they kind of do those winks?
It's a dangerous line to walk, because it works if you're going full Deadpool, and it works if you're just kind of playing footsie just to warm up the audience to be like, hey, we're all having fun together, aren't we? But if it's just that, or if you go too far and kind of keep breaking the immersion and keep reminding people in ways that may fall flat that you're watching a show on TV and none of this is real. You know, it's a dangerous game. So far, I think they've mostly struck the right balance, but being an overtly meta character kind of threatens to break that down if it's not just like a full-blown balls to the wall comedy.
But this could also be sort of Feige's overall thinking is like, well, now I've got this other platform that's part of it, you know, in terms of the whole universe, but separate also. Like, maybe that's the sort of thing he wouldn't ever want to do in a film because you've got to take it seriously and you've got to care about, you know, what happens to Peter Parker and Tony Stark's legacy. But like in this Disney Plus sandbox where the rules are a little different and it's a little looser, maybe you can, because like WandaVision too looks like it's going to have a very like kind of self-aware, like they're traveling through TV history and like those are going to be more like the characters as characters as opposed to like real people in whom we're massively invested emotionally. So I don't know. I mean, that might be part of the whole thought of this spinning off the universe into TV and streaming is like, well, over here we can play with that stuff and we wouldn't over here because Ant-Man 3 serious business. Yeah,
you're right. The sheer fact that they're doing something like, what are they calling it? What If? Are they calling it?
Yeah.
Is that the franchise? Right. Yeah. That they're using Disney Plus, the MCU shows as more of a playground to test out or just to have fun with stuff in this universe. So yeah, this would fit right in line with that. But meta comedy is a tough tightrope. So
there was a really good run on She-Hulk in the comics a few years ago by Dan Slott that I think really kind of threaded the needle with her being really funny, but still like tough and formidable, but also totally insane. We have a pretty good primer on Fandom you should check out that I think Ryan's put the link in the description about She-Hulk's history. And in that comic, it leaned into the lawyer side a lot. And the fact that this is an insane world where like she's hanging out with like a time traveling cowboy with a 2-gun kid and stuff like that. So with all that in mind, how much lawyering do you want to see in this? Keeping in mind that we assume that she will be a like 7-foot tall green lawyer walking into courtroom.
Lots of lawyering. I think that if Perry Mason is any indication, like you can use the lawyering or the case of the week or the overarching case, whichever way they decide to go, as a springboard in all sorts of adventures and evidence gathering and going where they shouldn't be and stuff like that. And you know, lawyers always have a fun surrounding cast of characters around them. You know, who's the judge, who's the other lawyer. That's why there's so many legal dramas. Like they're dramatic.
Yeah, I think on some level, this does feel like it, like just based on the creators, it does feel like it'll be like a workplace comedy, like that perfectly in line with something like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, you know, like it'll be, she's a lawyer, she's got clients, she's got cases, she knows other lawyers, you know, like it'll be in that world. And then you just thread in the larger than life comic book Marvel universe element to that, almost like a less surreal Harvey Birdman, I'm thinking is what your opportunity is. Like yes, how please. Harvey Birdman would have, you know, all the other characters are like, we know them from around the Hanna-Barbera universe, but they're all put in this new context when they interact with Harvey Birdman, where they have some court case they have to deal with, or they're a judge now or something.
I do like the MCU meets Harvey Birdman.
I watched that.
Yes. Let us pause for a call to action. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, if you could subscribe to our channels for videos every weekday, we'd greatly appreciate it. Hit that like, hit that bell, hit all the things except yourself or your friends. And also want to mention again that the next Fandom 5 trivia show is coming up right after this at noon. The link is in the description. It's going to be all things Disney. We're not including Pixar. But if you are into Disney, this one is for you. There's plenty of Disney to dive into. So please join us for that. But now we just talked about a big Marvel character. let us talk about DC and pour one out, guys. R.I.P. for DC Universe, although there's also some happy news for Harley Quinn we'll mention. DC Universe is officially exiting the streaming wars. We've lost a streaming wars warrior, and they are actually going to be changing over to completely comics subscription platforms. So they're renaming themselves DC Universe Infinite, but getting rid of all of the TV shows and movies. The remaining DC Universe originals, which includes just Titans and Young Justice, are going to move to HBO Max, which was expected. And this work is a little wonky. Some of the platform's library titles, catalog titles, are going to be going to HBO Max, but it's a little unclear how many, when that'll happen, because as THR notes, these are titles we're talking about, like the 70s Wonder Woman show, The Flash from 1990, Lois and Clark, and animated stuff like Batman the Animated Series and Justice League and Super Friends. It all involves deals. Even though Warner's owns all of it, they still have to pay people. They still have to pay like the producers to move them. So that's going to be a little bit of a process to see how quickly that happens. But let's talk the death of DC Universe. It kind of seemed inevitable for a while now. Where did they go wrong, guys?
Well, I mean, yeah, did they go wrong? I don't know. By having more than one streaming service with like largely overlapping content, like I don't get it. Like, why did this happen in the first place?
Right. The whole streaming industry, like when it was newer and everybody was following Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu, I think the idea was subscriptions were going to be the thing. Like that's what everybody wanted. They were going to get their niche subscription, so you'd get Shudder and this, it'd be like this a la carte version of cable, where you'd pick like the 5 services that meant the most to you. And so in that context, it totally made sense to have like, where there's a lot of DC Comics inspired content, put it all in one service, make it $5 a month, and you'll get the audience. And I think that what we've seen is, like people don't really want that many subscriptions. They want their few main subscriptions, and then they'll watch, free Roku channels or Vudu or whatever, where you can find stuff, maybe throw an ad or two in there. And I think that's where we've seen stuff like Peacock become successful, and Roku obviously has had a huge day with this. And, like all of those kinds of smaller Tubi, all of those services where you could watch free stuff with ads. And so I think in that new light, it makes sense for all of these big companies to merge. Like, we're not going to have 10 a la carte ones. We're going to have Paramount Plus, and it's everything Viacom can get their grubby little hands on. Or in this case, it'll be HBO Max, and it's everything Warner Media can provide all in one place. And so, like, I think that's how people are paying for their streaming services. And so these companies really had no choice.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the timeline here. I know DC Universe was kind of officially announced long before HBO Max, but certainly by the time DC Universe debuted, we knew that Warner's is working on their own major streaming service. Did it just seem like no one kind of stepped back and said, guys, what are we doing here? Why are we launching this smaller one before the big one?
Also, that cancellation of Swamp Thing before season 1 even debuted, I think really spoke to, there was never a full-throated confidence. There was never like Warner was like, this is a huge priority. We're going to put all of our efforts behind this. We really want everybody who loves DC to join this thing. I think right away there was always this kind of push-pull, like, is this really what we're into? Like, 13-episode romantic drama about Swamp Thing. And I think that already indicated, like, right from the jump, that this was going to be like a kind of a half step and like not a complete full strategy that was going to last, the duration.
Are you saying that Warner Brothers, while making some individually creative work, had no overall strategy and was kind of bungling the rollout of these things?
Shocking, I know. In light of only 12 HBO branded streaming services, we couldn't get this one additional one through.
Meanwhile, by the way, it is so surreal because you mentioned Swamp Thing, that Swamp Thing's about to air on CW because all the networks are desperate for content with COVID having delayed production. Like, here's a show we can air that was canceled a year and a half ago.
Before it even debuted, that we already cut for the last few episodes.
So then is it going to be on CW Seed?
Excellent.
God, I forgot that existed until right now. I'm sorry for putting that back in everyone's brain.
They have some random stuff on there. Sometimes
they
do.
They do.
Are you hopeful that they will get all these deals done and get all those catalog titles over? Because I think a lot of people, when HBO Max launched, and it's like, here's their DC section, and it was lacking in a lot of ways. Some of that was the movies, but some of it was the fact that, where is the Wonder Woman TV show? And the answer was, it's over at DC Universe.
Yeah,
of course. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, Okay, you.
No, you. Our dance continues. As much as I am anti-monopoly, and I am, if you're going to have a monopoly, at least get the benefits of one where all the stuff is in the same place. I just want to go to the things store where I can get all my things. That's the plus side. That's the carrot of 6 media companies owning everything. What are we living in this balkanized world where you have to pick and choose among 400 different streaming services? If we're going to have our galactic overlords control everything we love, at least let us pay to watch everything in one place.
I feel like the sense I get is like most of this will be worked out by like 2025. Like the deals that were in place from like 2015, 2016, 2017, those have to expire before we all get our way and like Viacom gets all its stuff back and Warner gets all its stuff back. And like probably they won't re-up most of those deals because they want to do exactly what you're saying and like collect everything so that you can just sign up for the one thing. But it looks like we just inevitably have 3 or 4 more years to like wait while the old deals of like, well, Harry Potter goes here and then there and then over here and then back there. And then eventually he will arrive on HBO Max in time for everyone to stop watching it because they don't like the author anymore.
Also, I want to mention just because I get a lot of tweets about this one whenever HBO Max and the DC content comes up, which is, what about the Adam West Batman show? Which is just to remind people, that show's co-owned by Disney because it was a 20th Century Fox show. So complicated. Also, will always be very complicated.
A beautiful Blu-ray collection. I have it on my shelf over here. Absolutely worth your time. You even get a little toy Batmobile replica with it. Highly recommended.
Oh, that's great.
Which took years to happen because at the time, 20th Century Fox and Warner Brothers had to work it out. Now it's going to be between Disney and Warner Brothers. That
was a release day purchase for me.
And then before we move on from all the HBO Maxiness, the one very exciting news for me, at least, was that Harley Quinn has been renewed. It is officially now an HBO Max show. They had already kind of moved season 1 and 2 there. So it took a little while. It turns out that's because with the change there was all the changes that happened behind the scenes at Warner Media with like execs, and there was new deals to negotiate with this show specifically, but they worked it all out. Season 3 is coming. I'm very happy. Gentlemen, are you very happy?
Yeah. I was going to say what took so long, but that makes sense that they had Warner Brothers had their every 5 years reshuffling of the C-suite, and the losers were summarily executed or sent off to Quibi. But yeah, that's really cool that this show gets this should have all the seasons. I don't see why they wouldn't greenlight this for multiple years, given the response it's gotten and the realities of production right now.
Yeah, I mean, much love to Margot Robbie. She's great, but this is the best version of Harley Quinn we've had since like Batman the Animated Series. Like this feels more like the character than the films to me, or even a lot of the like animated movies they're doing. Like they really captured something here that is hard to pin down. So I would say, yeah, if they want to keep Harley Quinn in the pop culture consciousness, this is the way to do it.
Yeah, I actually, I really actually loved Birds of Prey, and yet I'd still say this is better. It's
not a knock. Like I don't hate that interpretation of the character. I just think this to me is the best one of all. It's more like praise for this interpretation.
Yeah. It's so funny, and it just goes there in every way. And best Bane ever, did we all agree?
Oh, James Adomian is killing it as Bane, and it's so funny.
Yeah, amazing. I never really cared about Bane before, and now all I want is more of a Tom Hardy impression that has gone off into its own realm.
He's amazing. James Adomian is so funny, yeah.
So, guys, we are going to do one final segment here, and this is where we get to hear the voice of God, a.k.a. Ryan, for Fandom 5 Disney promo round. Ryan.
Hey, everyone. God has a very high-pitched, nasally voice.
Just as
we all hear differently.
Yeah. So we thought, before we go to the trivia show, we thought we'd show some of you maybe who haven't seen it before what a round would look like. So how this would work is, imagine I'm Joe, me, better hair, and I'm really good at saying the word toit whenever I'm happy about something.
There's a cat batting at your shoulder behind you.
There's over here pawing at me. Yes. So imagine that. So what we're going to do is we're going to act like Spencer is the contestant. And usually you don't get, usually you wouldn't get to do this on the show, but we are going to let Eric and Lon kind of help him out as the devil and angel on his shoulder.
That's good, because I do not know my Disney very well.
Right, yeah. So this will be a nice little peek. So even though Lon has written most of the questions for the show, if not all of them, these questions he did not write. So Lon does not know the answers.
I have no foreknowledge of the answers here. This will be absolutely authentic and fair.
Yep, and how this would work is you get screened up. You would see me come up in the app, and then once you got picked, we'd bring you up and we'd banter with you. We do the whole thing, and then we'd start, and you have to get 5 questions right without getting one wrong to win. Yeah, so you have to get 5 in a row right. It's pretty difficult, and we'll see what some of the questions would be like. Here's a good example. So, question number 1, we're talking Disney, mostly, right, Lon? Mostly Renaissance period on.
I sprinkled in, each round will probably have 1 or 2 pre-Renaissance questions, and I focused on bigger, like the Jungle Books as opposed to the Rescuers.
Gotcha.
And then, mostly like peak Renaissance, which would be like The Little Mermaid through Tarzan, and then a smattering, there may be a Bolt question or something about Frozen in there.
That is where I will lose, the Bolt question.
Yeah, we jumped around, but it's going to be like each round will be probably 3 out of 5 questions just on the Renaissance period.
Brother Bear.
Yeah. And
I don't think I put a single Brother Bear question on there.
Damn it.
There's still time. There's still time to throw one in. Let us know in the chat what you guys think the answer is. I'm keeping an eye on it. If you get it right, I will notice you.
Senpai will notice me.
All right, so let's get into it. So this is Fandom 5. We're going to start with question number 1. What is the name of Jafar's bird sidekick from Aladdin? Spencer?
Iago.
Is it Iago? And a little graphic will come up. And that is true. Yes, you got it right. Very good. All right, so we are going to move on to the next question. Question number 2. Max Goof travels across the country with Goofy to see what musician in concert in a Goofy movie. Which musician?
I mean, if I had to see things eye to eye with him, it would be Powerline, wouldn't it?
Oh wow,
Kevin Campbell's Powerline.
Nice.
Show me Powerline. Oh my gosh, it is Powerline.
Number 1 answer on the board.
Number 1 answer on the board, Powerline. I'm seeing a bunch of people who got Iago right. Seattle KO. Luis Valenzuela also got it right. Well, all of you are getting it right. So I'm going to say
you'd have to skip the country in shame if you didn't get these.
You get the first one right. Let's keep going. We're going to move on to number 3. They're going to start to get a little bit more difficult as we go on, right, Lon?
I should hope so.
Yeah.
By 3, 4 is when they start to get a little tougher, and then 5 is really like.
Yeah, it really built up my confidence. So bring it back down there.
I know.
Got you right where we want you. All right, question number 3. What is the name of Prince Ariel? What is the name of the prince Ariel falls in love with in The Little Mermaid?
Oh, that guy. In the top left corner of your screen, Prince Eric.
Show me Prince Eric.
The best prince.
Got it right. Yes, well, the best prince easily. Fandom's number 1 prince.
My 3s are a little tougher than that, but I'm going to allow this.
I will say they will be a little bit tougher in the trivia show. But
Unmarried bachelor spends a lot of time on a boat with his boys.
That's
I think this is Billy hastily giving me 5 questions that he knows off the top of his head that don't count for the real show. All right, so this one I think is a little bit more difficult. So we'll go on to question 4. All right. What is Maui's, played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, magical weapon that he uses to shapeshift in Moana?
It's a hook. Is that? Do you need more than that? It's a hook.
I think judges will accept that answer as a fish hook. Yes, it is a fish hook. I think we will take that.
He said, "You're welcome."
Yeah, what can I say?
So this is great. So now we're to the final question. Maybe that's why Billy did this, so that then we would actually see what it was like till you get to the end. So
should we not say? We should have probably been like, "Wow, these are tough." So
these
people
are really
like,
tough.
"I'm going to tune in and play."
These are our 5 hardest.
These are harder than anything in the real show.
Who could get this right?
At DA Barakas, I do notice you. Thank you. They did that. So let's do. This is the last question. So this would be for $150 right here, Spenny. So let's see. Question number 5. Catherine Beaumont provided the voice for 2 major Disney characters. She did Alice from Alice in Wonderland, and she did one other. I'm going to give you a multiple choice here, and you have to tell me what is the other role that Catherine Beaumont provided the voice for. Here we go. Is it A, Bianca from The Rescuers? B, Wendy from Peter Pan. C. Snow White from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Or D. Aurora from Sleeping Beauty. I can repeat those if you need.
I think I know. I think I have a guess for this one, but I'm not 100%.
Yeah, same here.
I'm the fact that I've gotten this far makes me proud. So instead of asking for help, I'm going to go down with a blaze of glory and say D, Aurora.
Can I issue my guess before?
Yeah, can we get a
throw your guess down?
I believe it's Wendy Darling from Peter Pan.
All right, Eric, what would your guess be?
Man, it's either Aurora or Wendy for me. And
Okay.
let's flip a coin and say I'm going to go with Wendy.
All right, Spencer, do you want to go with the outvoted? Do you want to go with the committee, or are you sticking to your guns here?
I'm sticking my guns, man.
I appreciate that, but it did lose you $150 because the answer was B, Wendy from Peter Pan, was the other role that Catherine Beaumont provided. So close. But hey, this is a good example because you know what, Spencer? If you were in our Fandom 5 and you played one of our rounds, you would stick around because we do one final round where we pick at random all the people who competed, and then they get a chance at a bonus round for $500. So even if you didn't win the round, you might get, if Joe rolls with one of his little nerdy dice and he rolls your name, you get to come up and play another round. And
that'd be fun.
So that would be a lot of fun. So stick around for that, and also stick around for the Fandom 5. I'm out.
Well,
Got out.
Yes, got out. I can't say it any better than that. Alas, we are not eligible. But if only, Ryan. If only. Guys, thank you so much. Wishing everyone a happy weekend. Once more, please join us again in a half hour at noon. In the description, you'll find the link to do that for the Fandom 5. That's it, and we'll be back on Monday with more SJU. Happy weekend.
See you later.